Hey guys, it's Eric. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that a lot of new ostomates have, and that is, when should I be changing my appliance? Stay tuned. Okay, so this question is very common. I think a lot of new ostomates don't really know, like, how long should I be wearing my appliance? How do I know when it's time to change it? You know, some people go on a schedule, some people change it when they feel like it's, dirty or unclean. So I'm going to go over some of the things that would give you some indication on when you should be changing your appliance. Now, I want you to keep in mind that a lot of this comes with experience. So as you familiarize yourself with the appliance that you're using and how your stoma is, how your skin is reacting, you're going to form basically a schedule, whether it's a rigid schedule like that you mark down on a calendar, or whether it's a schedule that just happens naturally. You're going to determine that as you move along. So one of the things that I tend to notice first, if I do need to change my appliance, is that I'll often get a lot of itching around the stoma. There'll sometimes be burning around the stoma. Now, when it gets to that point, you're probably past the point where it should have been changed. You should probably not wait that long to do it, but that's a good indication that something is going on and you should probably check it out. Another thing that I like to do is when I'm wearing certain appliances, I can visually see whether or not I notice more bulging around the stoma underneath the wafer. If there is, that could either indicate that A, I've got a leak under there and it should probably be changed quickly, or that B, the hydrocolloid is starting to swell. And if it swells to the point where I notice that it's kind of bulging and I can kind of feel a bump around there, then it's probably getting to the point where it's at the end of its life, and then I'll usually try to change it. Now, with some appliances like Hollister, where they use a tape border, that's much more easy, much easier to do. Whereas some other appliances that have like a rigid plastic wafer, it's not so easy. So, that's going to depend on the appliance that you're using. Now, another way to determine is obviously by smell. And I know some people with dogs will swear that their dogs tend to notice that their appliance needs to be changed before they do. And that's probably because there's some odor emitting. And what tends to happen is as your wafer starts to get consumed and it does absorb a lot of that effluent that's coming out of your stoma and other fluids. As it starts to fill up with that fluid, whether you can see it or not, sometimes it's getting so close to the edge or the surface of your wafer that it will actually emit an odor. So if you notice an odor and you don't see any visible signs of leaks, it could very well be that your appliance is just at the end of its life and needs to be changed. Now, another thing that I like to do, and this is something that I do as I'm removing my appliance, is I always like to inspect the bottom of my wafer. To me, I look for signs that perhaps there's a bit of leaking. I look for signs of erosion, whether or not the wafer is still intact or whether it looks all mangled and kind of like disintegrating. And I look for those signs, and that helps me to determine more or less what kind of schedule I should be on. So as an example, if after 3 days I notice that the wafer looks clean, there's no output that I can see that's gotten under the wafer, and everything kind of still looks nice and formed, then I could probably push it another day and there shouldn't be any issues there. However, if I've gone 5 days and I've noticed that it looks really terrible underneath that wafer, the next time I change my appliance, I'm probably not going to try to push it to 5 days. That's probably going past that limit. Now, some appliances will degrade different than others. If you're wearing something like a barrier ring, you'll notice that that will start to melt. So there are these signs that you can take cues from through your appliance that will help you to determine a schedule to be on. Another really important thing to remember is that if you're newly out of surgery, for about the first month or so, your stoma is going to be shrinking quite rapidly because it starts off really swollen. During that time, I would say to change your appliance more often than not. So For me, I was on a schedule of changing my appliance every 2 days. I probably could have done it every day because my stoma was shrinking rapidly. And even after 2 or 3 days, within that first month, I was getting a lot of irritation around my stoma because I would cut the hole for it, my stoma would shrink, and it would expose a lot of that skin. So if you're newly out of surgery, I would suggest changing your appliance more frequently. And as you notice that your stoma size is, stabilized and it's not really changing much, then you can start to establish a better schedule, a better pattern. You'll notice that you should be able to get longer wear time after that time period. Now, another thing you can do if you're fortunate enough to be wearing a clear pouch, or if you're wearing a two-piece that you can easily remove the bag from, is to look around and just see what's going on around your stoma. I've found that certain appliances tend to melt and degrade really quickly, and rather than taking the whole appliance off and then inspecting it, which may not be necessary at that time, I can actually look through my clear appliance and see whether or not I can see any kind of skin or a lot of erosion around there. And if I do notice that, then I'll change my appliance then. Now, for some people, their wafers may be intact, everything might be great, but they've got a clogged filter on their bag. So if you're wearing a two-piece bag and you notice that your filter's clogged, you don't necessarily have to change your entire appliance. You can just put another bag on with a fresh filter and continue on from there. I actually know a lot of people that will keep their wafer on much longer than they keep their bags. So they'll be changing their bags, let's say twice a week, and they'll keep their wafer on for a weekly appliance change, and that's perfectly fine as long as your skin agrees and everything is good. So that's something else to keep in mind. Another thing you might want to watch out for, especially if you're a guy, is to notice how long your hair is getting underneath your wafer. For me, I tend to shave every time I change my appliance, but if I wait too long, the hair gets much longer and it actually starts to interfere with the wafer's ability to stick, and it also may lead to leaks. So that might determine when I'm going to be changing my appliance. It might obviously not be as long as I can stretch the appliance adhesive wear to, but it gives me assurance that I'm not going to be running into problems by changing it just a little bit earlier. So those are some of the ways that you can tell whether or not your appliance needs to be changed. Again, this is going to vary from individual to individual, and you'll most likely find a pattern based on your own experience. But I'll have some more things to look out for in the written article, which you can check out. I'll put it in the description below. But if you have any other tips to share, and what things that you find give you clues as to when you should be changing your own appliance, leave it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear that. So I'll see you next time, guys, in the next video. Have a great day.